A couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned my 2022 annual planning process, and I had asked if you guys wanted me to go more into depth into my annual plan and the whole process and some of the tools that I use, that I'd be more than happy to do that. And of course, many of you have reached out to me asking for me to share that. So in this video, we're going to go through my entire 2022 annual planning and the process and some of the tools that I use to stay organized and focused. Now, I realize not everyone wants to be a full-time musician, and you may have zero aspirations to do anything business related with your music. That's okay. I still encourage you to hang around, because what I'm going to cover with you today, this can be applied to anything, especially if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur or you own your own business. These tips will absolutely help you, and you may be doing something similar already. Or if you have a job but you want to work your way up and you want to be more efficient and, well, you want to make more money, apply what we're about to go through, and I truly believe this is going to help you. We're gonna dive right in, but be sure, of course, to hang around till the end of the video, because I'm gonna kind of share some personal stuff and part of my story of making the jump from corporate America to doing whatever it is that I do now. We're actually going to go through a few things here. We're going to go through what I put into a spreadsheet, which I promise is not overwhelming. That's not the goal here. Okay, and I'll talk more about that as well. But we're going to go through the spreadsheet of my annual plan, the analysis that I do, my goals, that sort of thing. But then I'm going to take you over to the pen and paper side of what I do for planning, and that's going to be more for like the daily, weekly type stuff. So let's jump into the computer. Well, I don't think we'll fit in there, but let's check out the annual plan that I have for 2022, and I'll go through the details. What we're looking at is my 2022 strategies and planning spreadsheet here. So I'm using Apple numbers. You can use Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, whatever you want. Actually, I'm going to have a blank version of this for you to download. There will be a link in the YouTube description that'll go to a blog post on my jasonstallworth.com website, and you'll be able to download a copy of this, not with my info on it, but just a blank copy so that you can perform this analysis as well. So the first thing that I did for my 2022 planning was I assessed the prior year up to where I was at that time with what's called a S.W.O.T analysis. This is where you assess your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, any potential threats that your business or your brand might have, okay? As I'm going through this, I want you to think of the things that pertain to you. So strengths, I'll go through this quickly. Clearly, the strength for 2021, those were my guitar courses, the Metal Riff Master course that I launched in April. Then later, I think in October it was, I launched the beginner's course, Metal Guitar Apprentice. By the way, links for those courses, they are in the description of this video. A huge thank you to all who have supported those courses. That is what sustained my household this past year in 2021. So that was a clear strength. And actually, when I get into more of the personal story, I'll tell you about how I was almost like completely broke before I launched the first course. Whew, that was a close call. We'll talk more about that at the end. Another strength was the building of you guys, the audience, and the engagement. You guys know that I really try my best to respond to comments, or at least acknowledge you and that sort of thing. And I'm personable with you guys as well. And I think that goes a long way. The diversified and expanded talent, and what I mean by that, I'm not tooting my horn here. I'm just listing some strengths that, of my brand. I don't just play metal music. I don't just give you one thing. I've been expanding on that by giving you guys some tips for live gigs and going off into some other things with the motivational content as well. So having that expansion there, I think, helps my brand, okay? So again, I want you to think about these things as I'm going along. Think about how this pertains to you as well and what you're doing. Along with that brand building, that kind of is the next step. Jason Stallworth is becoming not just this dude who plays guitar, but my brand is building now, it's expanding. So another strength is the live gigs. So I didn't anticipate on playing as many live gigs, but it turned out to be a strong point because I'm able to do more with that, which I'll get into in a second here. Now, strengths, all those sounded great. Kind of sounded like, hey, we're talking Jason up, but let's get to the weaknesses. Now, I don't have very many listed here, but there's a lot of stuff that goes underneath each of these weaknesses that I have struggled with in 2021. So the main weakness here, even though the courses did great, was the amount of revenue needed on a consistent basis to sustain my household. Let me tell you guys, there were some good months, but there were some very scary months. I'll tell you right now, January 2022 is kind of scary right now. I'm actually filming this on January 11th. I know I'll release it the next day. But anyway, so that's a weakness. It's something I got to work on. Other weaknesses, and again, there are a lot of things that fall under these that I'm not listing. I'm trying to keep this at a high level, but planning, scheduling, and then overall being organized. Guys, I kind of suck at this stuff, and I kind of cringed on doing this plan that I'm going over with you here. You know, I had to force myself to do it. So these are things that I really have to work on and just had to force myself to do. In the revenue, well, let's move to the opportunities. I've got some opportunities that hopefully can help with those weaknesses, and that's why we do this analysis here. All right, so one opportunity for that's going to kind of tackle the revenue part is boosting my revenue through advertising. You know, if you're a business of any kind, it's a good thing to advertise because that's how you scale up. I've got great products. You guys know that. You guys who are in my courses and have bought my music, you can attest to that. Again, I can't thank you enough, but the way to scale up so that I can have that consistent and sustainable income is to boost one way, it's not the way, but one way is to boost revenue with ads. Now, what I should have put in weaknesses is ads, but that kind of falls under, again, the revenue, lack of revenue and lack of consistency. The weakness of advertising would have fell underneath that. Try to keep everything at a high level in this part here. Also, there's an opportunity to build automations and put systems in where possible. If you think about businesses, and I'm totally not promoting fast food, I don't really eat fast food hardly ever, but if you think about the McDonald's business model, one of the reasons that model works so well is because there is a very specific process that the employees are trained to go through. So they don't even have to think about it. This process works, so we build that in so that there's not, well, what do I do now? What do I do after I do this? It's a process and it's a system that's put in place. So it's almost mechanical and robotic in a sense, but when you're in business, you kind of have to have some of those in, and it's just going to save you a lot of time and headache. Now, another opportunity, of course, at a high level is to plan, schedule, and organize. And I'm going to get more into that when we go through the old school pen and paper stuff that I do after we go through this spreadsheet here. I'll kind of show you how I'm doing that. Next, under opportunities, there's a great opportunity to assess and focus more on what is working and ditch non-essential work. As a business owner, and even if you're an employee at a company, especially if you're at one of those corporate jobs like I used to be at, it's real easy to create busy work to do throughout the day. It's like, okay, well, I got to do this, got to do that. But I want you to take a step back and look at everything that you're doing and what's actually producing results and what's not. Chances are 70-80% of the stuff that you're doing, it's not really driving that goal, right? It's not really moving the needle forward. And a lot of it's stuff that if you ditched or did away with or outsourced or whatever you need to do with it, just push it off, you might be better off. You may find that you don't even need a lot of that stuff. We're real good at just creating busy work just to stay busy. You can put a lot of effort into running in place, but not go anywhere. Next, we've got some potential threats. What are the threats in your business and what you do, what you're pursuing? One threat that I have, and these aren't really threats, these could lead to things. So one is negative feedback. Now I will get, what do you call them, a hater or two, or I like to call them keyboard warriors, I don't really get a lot of those on YouTube here, which is great, but on other platforms, especially the FB, sometimes you'll post stuff and you'll get somebody just being an outright jerk. You can find yourself, if you allow this to happen, you can find yourself dwelling on that. So the negative feedback's not so much a threat, but the fact that you dwell on that could be a threat to your business, because now you're focusing more on this one idiot that said something stupid where you really should be putting your focus, your time, your effort, and energy into the people that support you. Why are you giving this person over here the time of day? But if you do have something out there and you get a lot of negative feedback, well, you may need to reassess what you're doing. You know, if I put a song out there and then you guys start critiquing it and you're saying things like, you know, I love your stuff, dude, but not sure about this song or this riff or what you're doing here, then, you know, you need to not really look at that as a threat, but just kind of step back and say, okay, what was I doing before that was working versus what I did just now? Sometimes you try new things and it just doesn't work. So don't let that become a threat. Go ahead and get in front of it the best you can. So hopefully that makes sense, but I kind of just put that into negative feedback, whether it's just some jerk being a jerk or if it's truly constructive criticism that you're getting. If you let any of those go, if you let any of those consume you, then it could be a threat, right? If you let the negative person, the idiot, consume you, well, you're not focusing on what you need to focus on. If you're getting a lot of negative feedback by a lot of people, but you're not doing anything about it, it's like, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do anyway. Well, that could be a threat too, because you could be getting away from the root, the foundation of what you started and how you built your audience, how you got your customers. If you're selling a specific type of, I don't know, hamburger or something like that, then all of a sudden you switch to, I don't know, let's say a chicken sandwich, and people just don't like it. And you don't pay attention to that, right? You stop making the burger and now you're making this chicken sandwich that nobody likes, and you're not listening to the feedback. Well, your business will be threatened because you'll lose your customers, okay? So I kind of harped on that, but hopefully that makes sense. Another threat to my business is not promoting to the right crowd. I don't think I have difficulty in that, but I listed it anyway as a potential threat because it helps me stay conscious of that, okay? So I need to promote my music and my brand and my guitar lessons to the right type of people. I don't want to try to get everybody to like me. That's not my goal. That's not the goal in business. Some business, if you own Amazon, right, well, you want everybody to like you because you want everybody to order. But as a guitar player and maybe in the specific genre of heavy metal and then doing some of the acoustic gigs and that sort of thing, I know I've got kind of a specific, a couple specific genres there. I need to make sure I'm promoting to the right folks, of course, like you guys, and not to someone who likes jazz or R&B or whatever, because I don't do anything close to that stuff, you know, nothing against it, but I need to make sure I'm not advertising to those folks, that I'm putting my stuff in front of the right people. So now that we've done our SWOT analysis, we can kind of take that information and we can move on to assessing our goals and objectives for 2022 or whatever year you're in. You don't have to wait to the beginning of the year, by the way, to do this. If you're watching this in April, May, or even December, I'd say start doing this right now, okay? So what I did here was I wrote out my high-level goals here. These are the big wins that I need for this year, things that I hope to accomplish. And then out beside it, you can see I've got a plan/objective on how to accomplish that. You can have a goal, right? If you have that goal, but you don't have a plan, okay? And all this stuff's at a high level. We're gonna get a bit more detailed in a second here, but if you don't have a plan to achieve that goal, it's really just a dream, right? I do have a collective annual revenue goal, and of course, with that goal is consistency. I'm not going to share that number, guys. I do have a number in my head. I had it written out here. I just chosen to kind of keep that at bay, you know, just for whatever reason. So hopefully you guys respect that. And that might be something I share at some point, you know, in the future. But how I plan to tackle this goal, achieve this goal, is some of the opportunities that we talked about: boosting sales with ads, plus organic growth, which we're going to talk more about that soon, okay? And increase opportunities for royalties. And I would like to increase opportunities for royalties with music releases. One thing I did not put in here, we're going to go over the music goal next, but I plan to become a part of as many music projects as I can with people that are already established. So I'll have more coming down the pipeline on YouTube, talking about that later, hopefully. But right below that, we've got a high-level goal of releasing at least one album this year and one single. So my plan for that is to create an aggressive schedule to have the album that I'm working on completed by the end of January. So that's a must happen. Now I have a single release that I want to write. Actually, it's a song I'm writing for my wife that I plan to release on our anniversary date of August 16th. So those two things. I want to do more than that, but I know my high level is at least do that. The album Overcometh, that's got to happen this year, and that single, okay? So we move down. I would like to achieve 100,000 subs on YouTube. So guys, please help me out with that this year. You've helped me tremendously already. Long story short, this has been a long road for me, guys. From June 2010 when I started to June 2020, 10 years exact, right? It took me that long to reach 10,000 subs. You had other YouTubers, guitarists just blowing me out of the water during that time, man. So I'm not complaining about that. You know, I kind of dropped the ball and didn't take this thing as serious for a number of years when I should have been driving it more. However, after that, I had a couple of videos that kind of, I don't want to say they went viral, but they did really well. And the channel has grown. Right now in January of 2022, I think I'm sitting at around 36 or 37,000 subs, something like that. So the reason why I want to do that, guys, real quick, this is not like vanity numbers. The reason why I want to do that is because YouTube creates a lot of opportunities for people like me. And if you have a business, unlike some of the other platforms out there, you know, YouTube, when people go to YouTube, they go to learn something. They're searching. It's a search engine. You guys are typing in stuff a lot of times to learn how to do something, or you're watching for entertainment, okay? Hopefully I provide a lot of both of that to you guys. Other platforms, it seems like people are they're just in scroll mode. They just go from one to the next, one to the next. You know, one to this, it's almost like zombie mode, right? So what I plan to do, the plan is to create more focused content and evergreen content that hangs around forever, that's relevant, you know, forever essentially. And I'm expanding my channel with the live gig content, okay, beyond just metal. And I'm going to start doing some vocal stuff as well, because that's just become such a big part of my life. I also want to grow my Facebook and IG to some specific numbers here. 100K for Facebook. I think I'm at like 38,000 now. And I'd like to get my Instagram to 20K. The reason behind this, again, these aren't vanity numbers, is because my posts will be seen by more people, okay? And it's just more ways to generate revenue organically, okay? This cuts down on my advertising costs. So the potential growth will be, of course, for more ads. When I run a Facebook ad, you know, people often will follow me and like my page, okay? So it's kind of a 2-for-1 special there. They get the ad, hopefully they buy the product, but they also get an opportunity to like my page and follow me, okay? I'll also be focusing more on a local level here. Again, this kind of ties into the gigs. So next, I'd like to have at least 7 live gigs per month this year. How I plan to do that is I will promote organically using the appropriate hashtags like Tampa, Florida, Lakeland, Florida, Brandon, Florida, all the places I play around here. Build that local audience, as I just explained when we're talking about Facebook and Instagram there. I'll also be repurposing the live shows for other things, like I videotape a lot of my videotape. That's such an old term. I film like I get this big video camcorder, you know. I'm filming my live shows to repurpose that, okay, to put content on YouTube to give to you guys for tips and things, but also to put out there on the social media platforms as well. And I can turn around on those videos and run ads on them to get more people in to see what I'm doing locally, okay? So that's how I plan to build that. Lastly, on the goals and objectives, and this is not something I'm going to really dive deep into, but I need to invest, guys. When I left my corporate job, I got a small severance and I liquidated everything, every asset that I had to take this chance. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end here. But anyway, I plan to invest. I would like to get to the point, you know, we need to really build more sustainability with revenue over these next few months, but I'd really love to get to the point where I could maybe invest, you know, 70% in local businesses, right? And maybe 30%. I, you know, started diving into crypto a little bit, so I'm not really sure how far I'll go into that. But that may change. Just know that may change. But I would really like to invest in some local businesses around here, especially some of the breweries and something like that. So Guys, that seems like a pipe dream right now, to be honest with you. Where I'm at right now, revenue-wise, it's like, okay, how are you going to make that happen? You got to pay the bills first, dude. But you do have to dream big. You really have to dream big. You guys know I'm passionate about craft beer, so to go into business with a brewery or invest in a brewery or something like that, it would be so awesome. So I really trying to cross my fingers here. How do I do that? There we go. I really hope to get to that level this year. All right, let's go over one more tab and then we'll move on. I'm gonna move through this fairly quickly. This is my projects tab, okay? This is the same spreadsheet, just different tab. These are the big items that I want to complete, and I just go into a little bit more detail in each one. So number one, by the way, if you're still with me, thank you. Thanks for watching this. I truly hope this helps you. Remember, I've got a blank copy of this for you to download. That link will be in the description. I'll remind you again, don't go there yet. Keep hanging out with me. So major projects, of course, the Overcometh album. I've had the drums and guitars recorded for this thing for over a year now. I want to re-record the guitars, and I want to write the lyrics, get the vocals recorded, and get the artwork done, and determine who's going to mix and master all this. All that has to happen in January. I better get to work on that, by the way. So after that, I want to do all the setup, the promotions, merch, and do the release in February. I'm not gonna like draw out the release. I know a lot of you guys, you've heard me talking about this album for over a year, and you're like, dude, just get it out. So as soon as it's done, it will be released. Okay, there's not gonna be a teaser or anything like that. I'm just putting it out. All right, so some YouTube collabs I want to do. Mike Schroeder in Germany, he owns Schroeder Guitars, and he sent me a guitar last year, late 2021, so I'm very grateful for that. So I plan to have him on the channel. I want to just kind of, have him talk to you guys about what he does and just some interesting things. I'm going to be doing a collab with Cliffhanger at Replay Guitar Exchange. Hope to do that in January. You guys know I record sometimes some of my videos at Replay Guitar Exchange, and have become really good friends with Cliff, who works there. And so I want to have him on the channel here. We've got a really exciting video coming up. Elizabeth Deduce, she's the vocal coach for Metal Vocal Virtuoso, one of the courses that we have, that Ken and I have over at Metal Mastermind, which that's the course platform. He and I own Metal Mastermind together. So I want to have her on the channel. That's actually going to be coming up very soon. I'm going to be filming that, I think, next week. So that'll be coming up soon. I want to have Ken Condelis on, my business partner for Metal Mastermind. He is working on a music theory course. Metal Music Theory is what the course is called. So, of course, we'll promote that on Metal Mastermind. But I'm going to have him come on the channel and talk to you guys. And we're going to break down how you can use that for guitar playing and such. I also have been planning to do a collaboration with Ben Ash. He was the guitar player in Carcass, and I can't remember what band he's in right now. I apologize. I should have looked that up first, but real cool dude. He reached out to me on Instagram, and I was hoping to do it last year, and it's really hard for me to do collaborations because, again, I am so busy with everything else. So I have these scheduled in there, so those must happen first quarter. All right, I also, guys, and again, I want to move through this quickly. So I also plan to start writing songs for another album. I know you're thinking, well, Jason, you're releasing an album. What do you mean another album? I've got a different strategy that I'm going to use going forward with my music with Jason Stallworth. And I don't want to say I'm going lighter. I'm not necessarily doing that. But since I've been playing these acoustic gigs, and I'll talk more about this later too, since I've been doing these acoustic gigs, I've been wanting to play more originals. So I got to thinking about that. I'm like, well, why don't I write songs that can be a rock or kind of a classic heavy metal style, which that's really what I prefer anyway, but I can also easily do an acoustic version of them. So I want to start writing for that, which I've already started writing for that. Okay, so moving on to second quarter, I've got to do something with this Dark Hysteria idea that I've had for so long. I've got a lot of questions you can see on here that I need to determine in the second quarter how I'm going to proceed with this album and or band and or project. I've got things like, is this going to be a solo album, band, or project? Is it greater than just me? Okay, I want to do a story behind it. I want to do a movie script, TV series. I want it to be big, guys. I want this to be big. If it's the above, is it Jason Stallworth's Dark Hysteria? kind of like that Avantasia band. Should I sing or do I want a female vocalist in this? I've thought about that. Do I want local musicians for the band, or do I want to hire some European musicians to capture that vibe? Because I'm kind of thinking with this, is it kind of like a Nightwish meets Epica type thing, something like that? I don't know. Is it melodic death metal, or is it more like dark gothic rock? So these are some questions that I have, and I'll be probably talking to you guys more about that and just getting some input from you. So anyway, second quarter also I'm going to have my single ready to be released on August 16th, which is my wife and I's wedding anniversary. Very cool tune. It's a love song, but it's a very dark love song, so it's just our kind of thing. All right, so 3Q, I don't really have much in 3 and 4Q because some of the other stuff may spill over. I'm not sure how this will work, but I do want to have a dedicated plan. Once I figure out in 2Q what is Dark Hysteria going to be, in 3Q, I want to have that already done and work on an actual plan. I've already got songs written for this album, by the way, for this project, whatever it's going to be. The name's trademarked, all that good stuff. So in 4Q, I'm considering, which I've got a question mark here, because I really didn't want to do courses this year. I want to work on promoting the ones that's out there. I want to get really good at that before making any more. But I thought about making a 7-string guitar course as well. Now I do have another Metal Mastermind project Ken and I are working on together, a studio production course. I didn't put that in the plan. That's actually on the Metal Mastermind. Now let's get out of the computer and go to the old school pen and paper. I want to share real quickly what I do for my daily planning. I mean, we went over the big stuff. We've got our annual plan. We've even narrowed it down to some specific projects and kind of put some details in there. That's fine. I will reference that. I should look at this once a week. You should look at this about once a week to make sure that what you're doing during the day and throughout the week is aligning with those high-level visions that you have planned for. So that's important. But for daily stuff, I don't necessarily like to be in the computer because I'm in the computer a lot anyway, recording music and just doing other stuff, blogging and such, you know. So I actually like to go to the old school pen and paper and write stuff down. Something, I don't know how to explain this, something magical happens, we'll just say that, when you physically write something down. It just gets ingrained in your system somehow. It's like it's a download or whatever. I used to use this calendar that you're seeing right here. But here's the problem with this specific calendar. I'm not saying you shouldn't use this. This is just the problem I had. I would make the plan, like you can see right here. This week was filled out with stuff that I was going to do each day. But then if I flip over, well, I didn't plan anything that week. So I know it seems kind of silly, but for whatever reason, that just wasn't working for me. I don't know why. So I'm trying a different calendar this year, and this calendar my wife just got me, this gives me more of a bird's eye view of the entire month. And I just started using this thing this week, which is why the rest of it is kind of empty. And I haven't even filled out everything for the rest of this month. And that's okay. Sundays, I usually do my weekly planning. Sundays, I like to write in the calendar what I'm going to do that week. I typically don't get too far ahead unless I have a specific, like a collaboration or something. Of course, I'll put my gigs in here as well. But other than that, I'll just write it on Sunday for that next week, that upcoming week. And you might be asking, well, why is that Thursday X'd out? What's going on there? Well, I made the plan, but then I remembered, well, that's the day I'm hanging out with my father-in-law. See, once a month on a Thursday, him and I go to the Tampa Hard Rock Casino here, and we'll just have a few drinks by the bar, and then we'll, throw 20 bucks in the machine and just have a cool day. So that's my day I'm spending with Chuck. A lot of times, Fridays, I won't write anything in. Saturdays, I won't write anything in. We're usually gigging those days anyway, or those evenings, nights. So I'll let those be kind of a free-for-all day, especially the Friday. I'll still work, don't get me wrong, but I'll just kind of like assess, okay, what have I done this week and what needs to get done to fulfill that week? What's going to move the needle forward? Remember, we talked about earlier in the opportunities, eliminating those things that don't move the needle forward. I mean, eliminating the non-essential work and focusing on more on what is working or what has worked in the past. Let's continue to build those strengths. Lastly, real quick, I also use a notepad. I'm a crazy notepad person. I've got one in my studio up here where I'll write out my YouTube notes for the video that I'm about to film. I've also got one downstairs that I use one for lyric writing when I'm on the patio writing music, and I also have one for business writing, and this is kind of the same thing. I might have the YouTube idea downstairs, so I'll writing in here, or maybe I'm writing out a marketing funnel, right, an email funnel, and that's something that, some of you know what that is, some don't. That's something I might get into later, but I might do some of the advertising layouts. I might write some charts or whatever. So I always keep that notepad handy, because remember, physically writing stuff down, it does something. At least for me, it does something magical, and it's like, okay, this is going to come to fruition today, or whenever I'm doing it. This is going to manifest. Now, I told you I'd briefly share like the short version of my story from corporate America to whatever it is that I'm doing now. But one thing I want to just kind of look back on here, you'll notice that the plan, all this stuff that I had written out, it really wasn't much. It wasn't anything that was overwhelming. And if you were to look at last year's plan I had written out, last year's, the annual planning I did for 2021, oh my God, I had like spreadsheets of stuff. And it kind of got me thinking that, a lot of that stuff didn't get done. And I was trying to what's called boil the ocean. This is a term that one of my managers, Nadia, who I'm friends with, I still keep in touch with her, but she was one of my managers at my last corporate job that I had. And she used to tell me I'd be frustrated, and I'm like, I'm doing this, that, blah, blah, blah. Because, corporate America, they want you to do everything. But she would always tell me, it's like, Jason, don't boil the ocean. Just focus on one thing at a time, get this done, then move on to the next thing. So I've really carried that over. Obviously, I didn't do it in 2021, hence the big spreadsheet that I had. This year, I told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to write just a bunch of stuff to do, right? Remember, get rid of the non-essential stuff that's not moving the needle forward. I really assessed that as I was going into this. I'm like, here's a few big things I want to get accomplished. First, I did that SWOT analysis, which, I may do that again next year. I may do something different, who knows? But, it's a good tool to use. But then I started thinking about what are the key things I've got to do this year? What's got to be out the door? And I wrote those down. And again, I didn't make some grand plan to conquer the world or anything like that. So I don't think I will be as stressed in 2022 as I was in 2021. Now, lastly, if you want to hang out with me for another probably minute or two, I'll tell you the short version of my launch from corporate America to doing this stuff here. I promise I'll make this short. 2 years ago, we're in January 2022 right now. So 2 years ago, I was actually still employed at my corporate job, which was Citigroup, Citibank. And many of you are familiar with that. So I had a good job, guys. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that would have just killed for the gig I had. Good paying job, good position. I was at a vice president level. I wasn't the vice president, but that's the level, okay? But still, that's something that's not easily attained. And again, I'd been there for almost 14 years. About a year prior to that, in 2019, I had told my boss, I said, hey, I know we do cuts every year, so if we do those in my department, please pick me. Can I volunteer for that? Of course, he kind of looks at me like I'm nuts. Like, are you sure? Like, yeah, I'm ready. I gotta, honestly though, guys, I wasn't ready. I've been doing this entrepreneur thing since 2010. That's when I started my YouTube channel. That's when I started my fitness blog. That's when I started working on my first album. So that's when this whole journey started for me. I had made a little bit of traction, but I never made more than what could be considered a part-time income from any of my ventures, right? So side hustles, yeah, they were making a little bit, but they weren't really doing so well. And actually, they weren't doing good at all in 2019. But still, I was like, I've got to go. I just had this thing inside. I've got to go. I've got to, if this stuff's not working for me, but I can't keep doing this. I guess I just had to put my back against the wall and make myself make this work somehow. And that's what I did. Now, without going into details, guys, I did walk away with a small severance package. I had also liquidated any assets that I had, which wasn't a lot. But you know, it was enough for us to sustain ourselves for probably a year, maybe a little bit more than that. And again, you know, after I left, I still struggled to make it though, guys. I was not, you know, this stuff that I'm doing, you know, I was making a little bit, but nowhere near the amount that would have replaced my old income, and definitely not enough to live on. And I think it was around March, April, right before I released my first guitar course in 2021, it was looking like I was going to have to go back to a regular job. And man, I started getting pretty depressed over that, you know. And again, it's like, guys, I'm not saying that if you work a regular job that there's nothing, that's a good thing, okay? It's a good thing. It's just I was at a point in my life, you know, this is just me, that I knew I needed to be doing this and I couldn't do this anymore. And I needed to be free, you know. I'm ready. I'm a workhorse. You guys know that. I work 10, 12, sometimes 14-hour days. My wife will tell you, you know, I'm a workhorse. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'll do it till I die. But I just, you know, I had to have that. I had to take this chance, guys. I didn't want to be 80 years old, 90 years old, looking back on my life saying, man, I wish I had taken that chance. And I knew, I get chill bumps thinking about it. I knew that had I stayed at that job, because man, when I left the job, I had all kind of people calling me saying, hey, you can come to this department, you can come here, do you want to come back, whatever. I even almost took a contract position there after the fact because things just weren't working out. But I knew in my heart of hearts that if I went back, it would just kill me. It would kill everything I've done. I'd lose momentum, and I just couldn't do it. So I've hung in here, guys. I'm hanging in here. And on that note, I want to say thank you so much for all the support. And I hope this plan that I went over today, I do hope that it helps you. Again, one last time, remember, I've got a link in the description of this video where you can download just a blank version of that file. And I'll have some more notes in there for you. Or the blog post will have some more notes too. If I left anything out in the video, the blog post. Some of you guys know I'm a writer as well. I actually published my first book back in 2017. Some of you have it. It's called Heavy Metal and Weights. It's kind of my story about how I get into weightlifting and guitar and heavy metal around the same time, but that's out there too. So one of the things I can tell you guys is don't rely on just one source of income, of revenue. Even if you're in a profession that you absolutely love and you're working for someone else, or maybe you work in a lot of hours. I know some of you on here are doctors. I've talked to you. Some of you are attorneys. Some of you have other specialties. You may own your own service business or something like that. I encourage you, though, no matter what your position is, find time to start some sort of side hustle. And it can be the same thing you're doing, right? You may, for example, if you're a doctor, for example, you may want to start a YouTube channel, you know, giving people some tips and some of the knowledge that's helped you along the way, right? Or you may be really good at a trade or something like that. Maybe you're an electrician, maybe you're a plumber, you're a roofer or whatever. Maybe you start a YouTube channel giving folks tips on how to take care of things themselves. Guys, you can do so much with that. I mean, we live in an era now where you almost have to, you know, diversify yourself a little bit and do your own thing, because you know, having a job, as much as great as that is, and as grateful as you might be, none of that's guaranteed. So you want to bet on yourself more than you're betting on somebody else that's employing you. So, and I'm not saying everybody needs to work for themselves, but I do encourage you, no matter what you're doing, to start some sort of side hustle. Now, when I say start a YouTube channel, do that. YouTube creates a lot of opportunities for you, but I'm not saying that you'll live off the YouTube revenue. Trust me, if I just relied on the ad revenue from YouTube, yeah, I'd be at another job right now. I wouldn't be filming this video, right? So you've got to think outside the box, and you got to create, you know, multiple sources within that. But it's just, you know, it's just something to think about, though, guys. If you know, some of you are already working for yourselves and you're building your business, but whatever you're doing, you know, have that side gig coming in as well. You know, have something that you're going for. So I just kind of wanted to leave you guys with that. I know this is a long video, guys, so I kind of feel like we had a meeting today. I feel like I'm back in corporate America here. This is our weekly or monthly staff meeting or whatever. And actually, I work for you guys now. I don't work for myself. You guys are my boss. You tell me what to do. But guys, remember to check the links in the description of this video. I'm not turning my channel into this type of channel. You know, I'd mentioned that I might start some sort of entrepreneur platform down the road. It'll be a completely separate gig. I'm not going to do that on this channel here. I'll say this real quick before we end. If you guys are interested in any of that type of stuff, leave a comment and let me know. You know, if I do jump into the entrepreneur teaching world, it's going to be way different from what anybody else is doing out there. There's a lot of people that teach this stuff that say, well, anybody can do it. You can just sit on the beach with your laptop and it just rains money. And guys, that's the furthest thing from the truth. I told you, I work, you know, 10, 12, 14-hour days sometimes. And, you know, I do what it takes. And I can tell you it's work, okay? I work more and harder than I've ever worked in my entire life. But I love what I do, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So if it's something you're interested in, just drop a comment and let me know. You know, let me know, because if you've watched this far into it, there's a good chance you're interested in hearing more about that. Thank you so much for watching this. If you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. My next video, of course, will be metal guitar related, or actually I might put one of my gigs out there. I did some songs at the last couple gigs I had this past weekend that I wanted to share with you guys. So that might be the next video after this. Guys, thank you once again for all the support. You know what to do until the next video. Keep it metal.